It was a quiet Thursday morning in Surrey. The sky outside was overcast, the kind that promised rain but delivered nothing but gloom. Isla Harrington stood by the kitchen window, her hands wrapped around a lukewarm cup of tea, staring blankly at her garden. The roses Graham planted 2 years ago were wilting. Much like their marriage. She had known for months that something wasn't right. Graham had become distant, taking mysterious phone calls and returning home late. He said it was business. Expansion. Opportunity. But Isla worked in finance, she knew numbers, and his didn't add up. She was preparing documents for their divorce. It had been civil, or so she thought. There was no shouting, no dramatic exits. Just quiet withdrawal. 2 people drifting apart in a house too big for silence. Then the letter came. It was plain. No stamp. No sender. Just her name, scrawled in a familiar hand across the envelope. Isla frowned as she tore it open. Inside was a statement from a bank she had never used. And a balance. Negative. Very negative. Her eyes widened as she read the figure, £163, 550.78. Her breath caught in her throat. A loan. Taken in her name. Months ago. She sat down, hands trembling, scanning every line of the document. There it was again. Her name. Her national insurance number. Her address. But the signature. It wasn't hers. Panic turned to fury. She dug out the financial documents she'd collected for the divorce. There was no mention of this loan. She picked up the phone and dialed her solicitor. This loan, it's not mine. I never signed for it, she whispered. Later that evening, as she waited for Graham to come home, Isla replayed every moment over the past year. His expensive watch. The new car. The impromptu business trips. And that time he said, "Don't worry about the finances, love. Just trust me." He had forged her trust. Literally. The front door opened. Graham walked in, dropping his keys into the dish, loosening his tie like it was any ordinary day. "I need to talk to you," Isla said, standing stiffly in the hallway. He looked at her, eyes tired, lips curved in that familiar smirk. "I was going to mention it during the settlement. You might want to check your account." Her voice was ice. "You might want to check the signature." The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Graham's casual tone only made Isla's anger flare higher. "Check my account," she repeated slowly. "Do you think I don't know what you've done?" He shrugged, an attempt to appear indifferent. "You're overreacting. It's just paperwork." Isla's voice sharpened. "It's £160,000, Graham. A loan in my name. Without my knowledge or consent. That's not paperwork, that's fraud." He avoided her gaze. "I needed the money to keep the business afloat. You wouldn't understand." She shook her head. "No, I understand perfectly. You used my identity like a shield to cover your mistakes. And now you expect me to bear the burden." Silence filled the room. Then Graham spoke quietly. "We'll figure it out. Together." Isla's laugh was bitter. "Not this time. I'm done covering for you." Determined, Isla reached for her phone and called Detective Louise Grant. The woman had a reputation for taking on financial fraud cases with ruthless precision. "Detective Grant, I need your help," Isla said firmly. "I've discovered a loan taken out in my name, and I suspect it was forged." Louise's voice was calm but authoritative. "Send me all the documents. We'll get to the bottom of this." The investigation had begun. Detective Louise Grant arrived at Isla's home in Surrey 2 days later. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing. After exchanging greetings, Louise carefully examined every document Isla had brought, bank statements, loan papers, emails, even texts between Isla and Graham. "It's clear someone forged your signature," Louise said, her tone steady but serious. "But we need to find proof that Graham was behind it." Isla's heart pounded. "What can I do?" "We'll trace the loan application process, check CCTV footage from the bank, and look into Graham's financial transactions. He's been hiding something, and we're going to find it." As the days passed, Isla was thrust into a whirlwind of meetings, phone calls, and legal consultations. Her life had turned upside down. She questioned everything she once believed about her marriage, about Graham, about trust. One evening, sitting alone in the dim light of her living room, Isla received a call. It was from the bank manager. "We've reviewed the application," he said gravely. "The signature doesn't match our records on file. It's a clear case of forgery. We are cooperating fully with the police." Isla let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. But just when she thought she might find relief, a new complication emerged. Graham, sensing the net closing in, began denying everything. He claimed the loan was necessary and that Isla had signed the documents during a business trip, a trip Isla knew she never took. Her solicitor warned her to prepare for a legal battle. "He's playing dirty," the solicitor said. "But with the evidence Detective Grant is gathering, we have a strong case." Isla's determination hardened. She wasn't just fighting to clear her name, she was fighting for her freedom, her future, and the truth. The courtroom was cold and imposing. Isla sat stiffly, the weight of the past months pressing heavily on her shoulders. Across from her, Graham's smug expression told her he believed he had already won. Detective Louise Grant was called to testify. She detailed the evidence, the forged signature, the suspicious financial transactions, and the CCTV footage showing Graham at the bank signing documents alone. Graham's lawyer tried to dismiss the proof as circumstantial. "My client never intended fraud," he argued. "These are unfortunate misunderstandings." Isla's solicitor stood firm. "The evidence shows deliberate deception. My client's identity was exploited to secure a loan without her consent." Days turned into weeks as the trial unfolded. Isla found herself reliving every moment, every betrayal, as witnesses were called and documents scrutinized. But just when it seemed the case was turning in her favor, Graham's camp dropped a bombshell. They produced a document claiming Isla had authorized the loan during a private meeting. Isla's heart sank. The signature on the document looked frighteningly similar to hers. Detective Louise Grant requested a forensic handwriting analysis. The experts confirmed it was a clever forgery, but convincing enough to cause doubt. Isla's battle was far from over. The forensic report arrived after what felt like an eternity. Isla waited anxiously in Detective Grant's office, her fingers nervously tapping the edge of the desk. Louise held the envelope, her face unreadable. "The analysis confirms the signature on that document is a forgery," Louise finally said, breaking the silence. Isla exhaled deeply, a flicker of hope lighting her eyes. "But there's a catch," Louise added. "The forgery is so sophisticated, some jurors might still doubt it. Graham's lawyers will use this to their advantage." Isla's resolve only grew stronger. "I won't let him get away with this." The weeks that followed were grueling. Isla spent countless hours working with Louise and her solicitor, gathering more evidence, interviewing witnesses, and piecing together Graham's hidden financial dealings. She discovered that Graham had been funneling money through several shell companies and falsifying documents to cover his tracks. His web of lies stretched further than she had imagined. At home, the weight of the ordeal pressed heavily on her. Friends offered support, but Isla felt isolated by the betrayal. Every phone call from her solicitor was a reminder of the uphill battle ahead. One evening, as Isla sat by the window watching the rain patter softly against the glass, her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "I know what he's done." Meet me at the cafe on King's Road tomorrow at noon. Come alone. Isla's heart raced. Could this be the break she needed? Or a trap waiting to snap shut? The next day, under a sky heavy with grey clouds, Isla made her way to the cafe on King's Road in London. The streets were slick from the earlier rain, and the chill in the air matched the unease knotting her stomach. She arrived early, scanning the room through the fogged-up window. A man sat alone at a corner table, his face partially shadowed by a worn hat. His eyes flicked up as she approached. "You must be Isla," he said quietly. "I'm Oliver. I used to work for Graham." Isla sat down cautiously, her mind racing. "Why are you here?" Oliver leaned in, lowering his voice. "Because I couldn't stand the lies anymore. Graham has been stealing from investors, laundering money, and using your name as a shield." He slid a small envelope across the table. "These are documents proving his fraudulent activities. He's been careful, but not careful enough." Isla took the envelope, fingers trembling. "This could change everything." Oliver nodded. "But be careful. Graham's reach is long, and he's desperate." As Isla left the cafe, her heart pounded with renewed hope and fear. She now had the evidence she needed, but the danger was far from over. Back home, she shared the news with Detective Louise Grant. Louise's expression was grave but approving. "This is the break we needed," she said. "Now we can push forward with the investigation and the trial." Isla felt a spark of courage she hadn't felt in months. The fight was far from over, but this time, she wasn't alone. Armed with Oliver's documents, Detective Louise Grant intensified the investigation. The newly uncovered paper trail linked Graham directly to the fraudulent loan and several other illegal financial schemes. Louise coordinated with financial experts to analyze every detail, turning the tide in Isla's favor. At the same time, Isla prepared herself mentally for the ongoing legal battle. She met daily with her solicitor to review the mounting evidence and strategize for court. Each new piece of proof strengthened her resolve and chipped away at Graham's defenses. During the trial, Louise presented the latest findings with precision. The courtroom was filled with tension as financial experts testified, exposing Graham's deception layer by layer. Graham's confident facade began to crack. His lawyer struggled to counter the overwhelming evidence, and murmurs of doubt spread among the jurors. Isla sat quietly, her heart steady but hopeful. She remembered every moment that led to this fight, the betrayal, the pain, the relentless pursuit of justice. Outside the courtroom, reporters waited eagerly. This was more than a divorce case, it was a story of courage, resilience, and the pursuit of truth. The final day of the trial dawned with a heavy silence in the courtroom. Isla's heart beat steadily as the judge prepared to deliver the verdict. Months of turmoil, betrayal, and relentless fighting had led to this moment. The judge's voice rang clear. "After careful consideration of all evidence presented, it is evident that the defendant, Mr. Graham Harrington, committed fraud by obtaining a loan under Mrs. Isla Harrington's name without her consent." Relief washed over Isla in waves. The court ordered Graham to repay the full amount and face criminal charges. Her name was cleared, and justice had been served. Outside, supporters and friends embraced Isla warmly. The long battle had taken its toll, but she had emerged stronger, wiser, and free. Detective Louise Grant approached with a smile. "You did well, Isla. Truth always finds a way." Isla nodded, tears in her eyes but a smile on her lips. The nightmare was over, but her story would serve as a warning and hope for others trapped in lies.